Live at the White House tracking that. Thank you. For more, we do want to bring in our political panel now. We have Republican strategist John Thomas and Democratic Georgia State Senator Josh McLaurin. Thank you both for being here. Senator, why don't we start with you? Governor Pritzker saying there is no emergency in Chicago that would make the National Guard necessary right now. In your opinion, do Democrats need to stop downplaying crime and just admit there is a problem, but federalization and spectacle will not help? I mean, is it a losing argument for Democrats to just keep saying everything's fine?
Thanks, Natasha. It's great to join you. I think that there's some truth to what you're saying about acknowledging the tragedy of every life lost. You know, it's no doubt that gun violence is a huge problem in this country and that we need to be figuring out mental health resources, some common sense gun legislation at states and the federal level to be able to limit that violence. But I think it's a question of focus and reaction. You know, we just had 4 days ago a tragic school shooting at a Catholic school in Minnesota, right? 18 injured, 2 dead, numbers that are similar to the numbers that were flashed up on your screen just a moment ago. But we're not hearing President Trump talk about a military deployment or National Guard deployment to schools across the country where school shootings continue to happen on a regular basis. And so I think we need to ask ourselves, what is this really about? We're not downplaying crime when we cite the accurate, real FBI crime data that says that crime has gone down all across the country and is at historic lows. In 2024, post-COVID, it's gone down several years in a row. We're now at lows that are similar to 1969. So yeah, it's easy to point at tragic events like Labor Day weekend and say, well, we need some kind of response. But what we don't want to do is be reactive and satisfy the whims of Trump's ego, because I think it's clear at this point that when he targets Pritzker over social media, you know, like moments ago, he calls him weak and pathetic. We're seeing a lot of psychological projection here. I mean, Trump is the one who is using military National Guard that don't even have the mandate to address violent crime in these localities. They can't even legally do it. He's just going to parade them around and act like he's somehow solving the problem. It's got all the energy of a loud muffler going down the street while you're trying to eat dinner, right? He's clearly compensating for
Okay,
something.
so John, I see you shaking your head here. You have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, we can see what happened in Washington, D.C. The local government similarly fought it because they didn't want President Trump to come in. And guess what happened? Crime in most categories is down double digits. I just visited D.C. and I can tell you, I felt markedly safer. You could tell the feel in the city. Why is it that in a place like Chicago, where obviously crime is a problem, that they refuse to cooperate with President Trump, who wants to make the area safer? The FBI won't even rely upon crime data in Chicago because they're a sanctuary city, meaning they don't report how many illegals are committing crime. Why can't they just work with the federal government, see if it works, try it out? If it doesn't, then tell Trump to hit the road. But give it a shot. But instead, what they're doing is they're playing politics. It's fighting Trump. Whatever he wants to do is a bad thing. And that's sad because we have to do something different, because crime is out of control in Chicago, whether or not the politicians want to admit it.
Senator, what is your take on this? We had a Democratic panelist on the show last night who was basically saying that Democrats in some ways are hamstrung. They cannot be seen to cooperate with President Trump, even if he does have some good ideas. It would be political suicide for them. What is your take on that?
Well, I was on a program recently talking about how some tariffs make sense. For example, if you have targeted tariffs that are specific to industries and you work with labor leaders, but what we have is these blanket tariffs that are all across the board affecting every industry because Trump has an ego about specific countries and is retaliating against specific leaders who bother him, right? And so we're seeing the exact same thing with his approach to public safety. People were not concerned about, well, let me put it this way, actually. People were concerned about deploying military and National Guard on American soil when Obama was president. I mean, I remember I voted for Obama twice, right? There's my bias or whatever. But I remember when people were talking about Obama training youth paramilitary camps and militarizing FEMA, and there was always all this fear and commotion about whether Obama was going to invade American cities on American soil. Trump is literally trying to do exactly that now. And now everybody's just falling in line on his team behind him and acting like it's some brilliant thing. I mean, it reminds me of the emperor's got no clothes, right? Everybody's pretending that Trump is like a public safety genius. But as you guys pointed out, the top 10 cities where the crime rates are highest, we're not talking about those. This is about personality.
So John, let's talk about that. When you do look at the per capita data, Chicago doesn't even crack the top 10. First of all, is it justified for Chicago to be next on Trump's list right now. And I believe that we were actually speaking about this before on the show. Maryland Governor Wes Moore and the potential politicalization. Goodness gracious. It's late, gentlemen.
Yes.
Bear with me. Of all of this, Trump threatening to send National Guard troops to Baltimore after Moore criticized his approach. I mean, is that what this should be?
Well, first of all, what really started this first was that Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, was working on cracking down on illegal immigration in Chicago, which is known to be a sanctuary city. Then it escalated from there into actually attacking crime. So crime feels out of control. Chicago's come under contention for not fairly and accurately reporting crime statistics. And I think any major city, whether it's Dallas, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, Chicago, should welcome additional assistance here. You know, Democrats are kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't politically. Democratic primary voters say they want a fighter, somebody who will stand up to Trump. But general election presidential voters want an adult in a room who will reach across the aisle just to get things done. And what Democrats are doing now in preparing for a primary to fight Trump is they're ceding an issue to Trump and the Republicans, which is law and order and public safety. This should not be an issue of contention. It just befuddles me. It worked in D.C. We just saw it. Chicago should say, look, you got 2 weeks. Show us what you got. And if it doesn't work, then we'll talk about kicking you out of here.
All right, John Thomas, Georgia State Senator Josh McLaurin, I really appreciate your time tonight. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Former New York City Mayor